Election night coverage right here in Rutland, Vermont. Appreciate you tuning in tonight, whether you're watching on Comcast, VTEL, on YouTube, or on pegtv.com or live streaming. We have a lot of election results tonight from the local level that we're going to bring to you regarding House races, Senate races, and the like. But I want to mention first, we know that you are both COVID fatigued and election fatigued. And we're happy to have gotten to the night where we can make choices and decisions, and maybe we can move on after today with a little less of these commercials and all the things that have been just pounding the airwaves as this election season seemed to draw on and on. So let's get on with it. Just to let you know, we have some results already, and of course, being safe around the studio from COVID-19. So I am without my co-host Nancy Gordon tonight, and we hope to have her back as soon as we can be closer together, but with distance and safety throughout the studio. We're bringing this to you solo tonight. So what we're going to do is get to these results immediately, and then a little bit of banter, a couple of things to catch up on, but we will be going out to the bulletin board in between as we wait for other towns that may be a little slower coming in than Rutland City, and then we'll come back to you live. So with that, let me get right to some results in Rutland City. I'm sure you're very interested to know. We're going to start with one of Rutland's largest wards, the Godnick Center, District 5-1. We're going to, because there's so many candidates for so many offices, we are going to cut to the chase on some of these. For instance, in District 5-1, for the governor of the state of Vermont, Phil Scott has a huge lead in District 5-1 with these results of 1,841 votes to David Zuckerman's 520 votes. For Lieutenant Governor, Molly Gray with 1,045 being edged out in District 5-1 by Scott Milne with 1,272. Then we go on to, we're going to skip over some of the statewide races real quick because I want to get you to some of the local things that are going on. For instance, State Senate. In District 5-1, I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. Brittany Kavakis running as an independent with 454 votes. Brian, BC, Collimore, Republican, 1,180 votes. Larry Corsell, Democrat, 730 votes. Greg Cox, Democrat, 806 votes. Cheryl Hooker, Democrat, 1,169 votes. Casey Jennings, Independent, 77 votes. Richard Sensei Lentius, Independent, 14 votes. Michael Schenk, Independent, 156 votes. Josh Terenzini, Republican, 1,025 votes. And Terry Williams, Republican, with 669 votes. Now you have 10 candidates there running for just 3 seats. So in District 1, that gives you your leader of BC Brian Collimore, followed by Cheryl Hooker and Josh Terenzini. In the House race there, Peter Fagan, Republican, is unopposed, 1,932 votes. And on to the High Bailiff, Jonathan J.J. Bixby, running as both gotten the Republican and the Democratic nod with 1,592 votes for High Bailiff, with William Humphreys, Independent, running, followed by Bixby's 1,592 votes with 350. Now, the budget article, general, we'll read this once and then we'll just refer to it. It's a long article, but it's about the rec center. So, shall general obligation bonds or notes for the city of Rutland in an amount not to exceed $1,450,000, subject to reduction from available state and federal grants and aid, be issued for the purpose of financing the cost of acquiring the former College of St. Joseph property, consisting of approximately 20.4 acres of land, together with buildings and improvements, located at 71 Clement Road, including the athletic complex and related fields. So shall you vote for that allocation of up to $1,450,000, yes or no? In District 5-1, which is Godnick Center, the yeses are overwhelmingly 682, with the noes only 671. So that's the rec center vote, which will refer to that long ballot item as we go forward. For president in that ward, just out of curiosity, Joe Biden, 1,503, and Donald Trump, 893. That's District 5-1. Let's go right to District 5-3 in that order. We haven't got 2 in here yet. Let's mention that same one while we're right at it. Joe Biden, 866, and Donald Trump, 598, just for those who are interested in that. For governor, backing up a little from the presidential election, Phil Scott, 1,004, David Zuckerman, 371. And for lieutenant governor, Scott Millen winning this ward in Rutland City also at 724, with Molly Gray, 648. Let's get to those state senate races here in Rutland County. Again, alphabetical order. Brittany Kavakis, 295. Brian Collmore, 626. Larry Corsell, 364. Greg Cox, 477. Cheryl Hooker, 691. Casey Jennings, 76. Richard Sensei Lenchis, 30. Michael Shank, 67. Josh Terenzini, 611. And Terry Williams, 392. So again, looking at the top 3, that's Cheryl Hooker, 691, Brian Collmore with 626, and Josh Terenzini with 611. So your 2 incumbent senators and your newcomer, Josh Terenzini, now taking both wards 5-3 and 5-1 in Rutland City. And in the House race, Mary Howard is your winner in District 5-3 for House of Representatives in District 5-3. Mary Howard, the incumbent Democrat, 806 votes, 806, to John Chaffee Jr.'s 639, the Republican candidate for House of Representatives in Rutland City, District 5-3. Again, Mary Howard, your winner, Democrat, with the incumbent with 806 votes, and followed by John Chaffee Jr., the opponent, Republican, 639 votes. On the rec center vote, 948 yes, 462 no. And the third ward out of 4 in Rutland City, we'll go just in the same order at this point. Joe Biden with 1,106 and Donald Trump with 769. For governor, Phil Scott, 1,324 with David Zuckerman, 470. And for lieutenant governor, again, Scott Millen winning with 982 votes over Molly Gray's 793. And for state senator, District 5-4, again in alphabetical order, Brittany Kavakis, 339 votes. Brian Collmore, 847 votes. Larry Corsell, 515 votes. Greg Cox, 650 votes. Cheryl Hooker, 864 votes. Casey Jennings, 80. Richard Lenchis, 22. Michael Shank, 122. Josh Terenzini, actually carrying, almost carrying this list, came in, no, he's let's see, 838 votes, so that puts him third in that ward as well, but carrying the day. Terry Williams, last one on the ballot here, 497 votes. So again, Brian Collmore, well, actually Cheryl Hooker leading that ward in District 5-4, followed by Brian Collmore and Josh Terenzini. Very, very close, 864, 847, and 838. So there's your top 3 candidates in those 3 wards in Rutland City for Senate. And in the House race, William Knott, 1,020. He's the incumbent Democrat, defeating Sherry Prouty, Republican newcomer, 847. So William Knott wins District 5-4 in Rutland City for the House of Representatives with 1,020 votes over Sherry Prouty's 847. Looks like everybody likes Jonathan J.J. Bixby for High Bailiff with 1,251 votes over William Humphrey's 351. And last but not least, the Rec Center vote, again an overwhelming margin, Looks like 2-1 here, 1,223 yes in District 5-4 to 612 no on the rec center ballot item. So that, even though we have one more ward to come in here, Rutland City, clearly the rec center ballot question to purchase the land and the building at College of St. Joe for the new Rutland City Recreation Department has overwhelmingly passed. Let me just go now to the District 5-2, the only one we have not reported on yet in Rutland City. And great job by the team here at PEG TV getting these results in fast and accurate. They are the unofficial results, of course, but we like to think that they're pretty accurate. Joe Biden with 1,204 votes over Donald Trump's 766. We're going to go right to the governor in this same order. Phil Scott, 1,499 to David Zuckerman's 417. Lieutenant Governor Scott Milne, again, with 1,040 over Molly Gray's 864. And for State Senator, Brittany Kavakis, 372. Brian Collmore, 918. Larry Corsell, 568. Greg Cox, 609. Cheryl Hooker, 905. Casey Jennings, 68. Richard Lenchis, 20. Michael Shank, 137. Josh Terenzini, 849. And Terry Williams, 511. Now keep in mind, these are Rutland City results, so the top three, Brian Collmore, Cheryl Hooker, and Josh Terenzini, are the top three in all four wards in Rutland City. But of course, there's 27 towns voting in Rutland County, so those are the unofficial tallies and the lead at this point. Things can change with outlying towns where people are maybe more popular in other smaller towns around the county, we don't know. But clearly in Rutland City, there's your three favorites, Brian Collmore, Cheryl Hooker, and Josh Terenzini. Larry Cooper, he calls himself Cooper in quotes, but of course Larry Coopely, the Republican from District 5-2, unopposed with 1,606 votes. Congratulations, Larry. And Jonathan Bixby, again, overwhelming margin there for High Bailiff, 1,343 to William Humphreys, 332. So as far as Rutland City is concerned, Jonathan J.J. Bixby, who is represented by both the Republican and the Democratic nod here, is High Bailiff as far as Rutland City is concerned. And last, again, but not least, the Rec Center vote, which seals the deal in Rutland City, because these will be the only wards voting on this item. 1,307 yes, 594 no. So really, literally, by close to a 2-to-1 margin, the voters of the Rutland City have decided that they do want to release up to $1,450,000 bond obligation for the new rec center at the College of St. Joseph. So they've been doing some quick tabulating here, and they're fantastic out there. And by the way, congratulations to all of you that voted today. Like the rest of the nation, it's a massive turnout. And speaking with Henry Heck this morning, we got over to vote about 7:30. We missed the rush at 7. According to Henry, it was everybody was lined right up at 7. They got them through quickly. Fantastic job by the city clerk and the ward clerks and that great team in Rutland City to alleviate that quickly and get everybody in and out. But Henry was suggesting, and Chris McCormick did a little homework here earlier to determine how many people had voted in the 2016 presidential election, and we were at about 66% in 2016. According to Henry Heck's guesstimation this morning, he was estimating it could be as high as 80% today. 80%, phenomenal. So, you know, you exercised your right to vote, you're making your choice as to who you want to represent you locally and nationally. And congratulations to everybody who did that, either by mail, by absentee, or, you know, literally getting out like we did this morning and voting in person. It's really going to represent the wishes of your local electorate, as well as who you want to represent you on the national scene. So thank you for getting out today, regardless of who you voted for or why you voted. The important thing is that you voted, and it's amazing to think that the turnout could be this massive in Rutland, Vermont, potentially the state of Vermont, and potentially the entire country. Speaks really well for people right now getting involved and letting their voices be heard through their vote, which we're lucky to have in this country. So Tom Leopold is working hard here tonight with the whole crew. Tom's the executive director here at PEG TV, Public Education and Government Television. So we have a couple of outlying towns. Fantastic. We have Danby and Pollitt. So we're going to give those to you right now. Thank you, Tom Leopold. We got a fantastic team here at Rutland Region Community Television, PEG TV, one of the region's greatest assets. So let's look at Pollitt, and we're going to go to, we'll since some of these are kind of straightforward, even though there's 21 candidates for President of the United States, we'll hit the top two, which is Joe Biden with 469 votes and Donald Trump with 369 votes. By the way, I see, Kanye West got 4 votes over there in Pollitt, and I was wondering about Phil Collins. It's not the same one that I know, whose music I enjoy. Didn't get any votes over there in Pollitt. Now for governor, Phil Scott with 571 votes to David Zuckerman's 270. So if this is any indication of the way the rest of the county and the state's voting, then Phil Scott is headed to another term as governor of the state of Vermont at this point. A close one for the lieutenant governor's race in Pollitt, with Scott Milne just edging out Molly Gray, 406 votes to 404 votes. So that's a close one in Pollitt for lieutenant governor. And jumping over to Senate, again, this is interesting because now you're seeing some of the outlying towns, and it can be a different opinion than the city voters. Brittany Kavakis with 81 votes. Brian Collmore with 295 votes. Larry Corsell with 256 votes. Greg Cox with 321 votes. Cheryl Hooker with 370 votes. Casey Jennings with 27 votes. Richard Lenches with 10 votes. Michael Shank with 42 votes. Josh Terenzini, Joshua C. Terenzini, I know him as Josh. I understand Josh and his family are watching us tonight on YouTube, so welcome Terenzini family. And I know Tom is running for state representative in the House there, so when we get the Rutland Town votes, we'll see what the decision is there for town voters and the House race as well. But Josh Terenzini with 255 votes and Terry Williams with 316 votes. So that looks like, I'm just going to look real quick at the threes, putting Greg Cox, it looks like, Cheryl Hooker would be first, Greg Cox would be second, it looks like Terry Williams third, followed by Brian Collmore, and it looks like just a vote separating Larry Corsell, which would be fifth, and Josh Terenzini sixth, with Larry Corsell 256 votes, Josh Terenzini 255 votes. So see, if you don't think your vote matters, it does when it comes down to some of these tight races. For state representative, Sally H. Akey, I'm probably saying that wrong, I apologize, Sally, Achey, Middletown Springs Republican, 428 votes to Robin Chestnut Tangerman at 442 votes. So at this point, Robin Chestnut Tangerman has been reelected to state representative actually no, there's more towns in that district. So let me rephrase that. He's won that in Pollitt, but there are a couple other towns weighing in on that one that we'll have to see. And again, Jonathan J.J. Bixby winning, or not winning actually, and high bailiff in this town, 259 votes. William Chief Humphreys out in Pollitt actually received 517 votes. So see, there can be a big difference in some of the towns versus the city results, and that's why you really have to wait till the end of the night to total everything up when you're looking at 27 towns reporting in. There can be some big differences in those towns and their opinions. So, let's see, let's go on to okay, so we have Clarendon. And again, presidential, just looking quickly, Joe Biden, 656 votes, and Donald Trump, 782 votes in the town of Clarendon. We're going to go right to governor, Phil Scott, again, handily beating David Zuckerman, 1,143 votes to David Zuckerman's 235 votes. So again, I'd say if that's any trend around the rest of the state, it does appear that Phil Scott will easily go to victory again to re-election, and if Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman would be temporarily out of politics, it appears. For Lieutenant Governor, Lieutenant Governor Scott Milne, 929 votes, almost 2-1 in the town of Clarendon. For Molly Gray's 451 votes. And let's go to State Senate. Brittany Kavakis with 156 votes in the town of Clarendon. Brian Collmore, 808 votes in the town of Clarendon. Leading the ticket, Brian Collmore. Larry Corsell with 312. Greg Cox with 404. Cheryl Hooker with 506. Casey Jennings with 36. Richard Lenschus with 10. Michael Schenk with 49. Josh Terenzini, a strong showing in the town of Clarendon, 793 votes. And Terry K. Williams, also doing well with 634 votes in the town of Clarendon. So we're looking at your top three. Clearly, Brian Collmore with a great lead there in the town of Clarendon with 808, followed by Josh Terenzini with 793 votes, and Terry Williams being third, coming in third, with 634 votes. And state representative, this is one of a few towns that weigh in on this group. It's vote for not more than 2, and we have 4 people running in this section of Rutland's district. It is West Rutland, Tom Burditt's West Rutland, I should say, 698. Ken Fredette with 454, transposing there, 454. Arthur Peterson, 769, leading the ticket there. And Dave Potter, another incumbent, 618. So that would put Arthur Peterson first in the town of Clarendon, followed by Tom Burditt second. And that's 2 voting. You're taking 2 out of 4. So in the town of Clarendon, you voted to elect Arthur Peterson and Tom Burditt at this point. And there's a few more towns that weigh in on that one as well. It looks like J.J. Bixby is going to be high bailiff at this point, unless something changes drastically. He's got 1,010 votes to William Chief Humphrey's 248. So if that's anywhere consistent throughout the night, you would have elected Jonathan Bixby high bailiff. And let's see now, if we have totals of all the wards, it looks like, is what they're handing me next for Rutland City. And see if there's any towns I missed here at this point. Nope. Okay. So let's see. We're going to just kind of skip over some of the national stuff. We're going to be up all night waiting for the national stuff. But let's look at governor, for instance. Wow, it's showing percentages in Rutland City, 73% for Phil Scott versus 23% for David Zuckerman, 23%. So in the total of the 4 wards, 5,668 votes for Phil Scott, and David Zuckerman, 1,778, so it's quite decisive in Rutland City. Lieutenant Governor, not so decisive. A close race, really. 4,018 votes for Scott Milne versus 3,350 for Molly Gray. So, well, that's a pretty good margin in Rutland City that definitely would indicate that it's going to be a tighter race in Rutland County and statewide. And we're going to skip over some of these and get to some of the more local ones. So again, Peter Fagan, District 5-1, unopposed, running Republican, 1,932 votes. Larry Coopely, running unopposed, Republican, Rutland City Ward 5-2. Those are voting at Christ the King, and with Peter Fagan's voting at Godnick Center. 1,606 votes for Larry. 5-3, which is American Legion. 639 votes for John Chaffee, 806 for Mary Howard. So Mary Howard wins her re-election to Rutland City 5-3. And another incumbent re-elected in District 5-4, with William Knott receiving 1,020 votes, the Democrat, versus Sherry Prouty, the Republican, with 847 votes. And a pretty good showing for Sherry Prouty, given that she's a newcomer to politics and campaigned hard, received as carrying the city with 3,629 votes, 18% of the total, followed closely by Brian Collmore, which is also percentage-wise the same, 18%, but 3,571 votes would put Brian second. Remember, out of 10, you're electing 3. And the third highest candidate, very close behind, with 17% of the vote in Rutland City, Josh Terenzini, with 3,323 votes. And the next behind the top 3 at this point, remember, you're electing 3, Greg Cox, with 2,542 votes in total for Rutland City, followed by Larry Corsell, with a good showing for 2,177 votes for Larry. Terry Williams, 2,069. Brittany Kavakis, 1,460. Michael Schenk, 482. Casey Jennings, 301. And Richard Lentjes, 86. So right now in Rutland City, your top vote getters for Senate in Rutland County, Cheryl Hooker, the Democrat, who is a incumbent, 3,629 votes, coming in first in the 4 wards total, to Brian Collmore, the Republican, also running for re-election, the incumbent, 3,571 votes, coming in second and third, newcomer to the Senate race anyway, not a newcomer to politics necessarily in Rutland County, but Josh Terenzini, Republican, from Rutland Town, 3,323 votes, following closely at 17%, with 18% for Collmore and 18% for Hooker. And then we drop down to 13% for Cox, 11% for Corsell, 11% for Williams, 7% for Kavakis, 2% for Schenk, 2% for Jennings, and the 86 votes for Lentjes don't total 8%. So looks like a pretty great turnout of voters in all 4 wards in the city. Again, congratulations to those ward workers and the city clerk, Henry Heck, and his team at City Hall, getting this accomplished for Rutland City and getting these results in fast. So we know who our representatives are: Larry Coopely, Peter Fagan, Mary Howard, and William Knott will be the House representatives from Rutland City. And as far as the city vote goes, just the city vote goes, you are I should say you're trying to re-elect, because I kind of hesitate to say you have until the towns come in, but you have leading Cheryl Hooker, Brian Collmore, and Josh Terenzini. Let's put it that way. And as we get some of the outlying towns, it's always quite interesting. It can change, but the city definitely makes a difference if you've got a pretty solid lead in Rutland City, and then you go out to the towns. They can sometimes chip away at that if you've got a tight race for the 4th seat, but if not, it usually carries through. So I would suggest that it will carry through, and it's probably going to be your 3 senators from Rutland County, but let's wait and get a few more small towns in and see how they're feeling. Let me just, speaking of which, go back one second to the couple of the small towns that we do have in, just to reiterate, in that case, for instance, with Clarendon in that Senate race, Brian Collmore is first, Josh Terenzini is second, and then Terry Williams third. And let's see where Cheryl Hooker falls there. So she's at 506 votes, which would put her, it looks like she'd be 4th, which is a good place to be regardless when you're running 1st or 2nd in the city tally. So she had 506 votes. So let me go right through it again for state senator in the town of Clarendon. Brittany Kavakis, 156. Brian Collmore, 808. Larry Corsell, 312. Greg Cox, 404. Cheryl Hooker, which appears to have come in 4th in the town of Clarendon with 506. Casey Jennings, 36. Richard Lenches, 10. Michael Schenk, 49. Josh Terenzini, which appears to have come in 2nd in the Senate race in the town of Clarendon with 793 votes. And Terry Williams, also running Republican, with taking the 3rd spot in the town of Clarendon with 634 votes. And let me get to that other town we have, Pollitt, because this sometimes gives you an indicator of what's going on around us here in the hole in the donut, Rutland City. Brittany Kavakis with 81 votes, followed by I should say, in alphabetical order, Brian Collmore, 295 votes. Larry Corsell, 256 votes. Greg Cox, 321 votes. Cheryl Hooker, 370 votes. Casey Jennings, 27 votes. Richard Lenches, 10 votes. Michael Schenk, 42 votes. Josh Terenzini, 255 votes. And Terry Williams, 316, I believe, that is handwritten in, and I'm going to go with 316. But that would put Cheryl Hooker as first in the town of Pollitt, followed by Greg Cox and Terry Williams, following those two. So there's your top 3. And then Brian Collmore, and then Larry Corsell. So see, it does change a little bit with the small towns, and we've got 27. So let's see what the others say. So let me get to a couple of things I wanted to talk about briefly. First, I want to take a moment while we are waiting for the next town. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, the Rutland City ballot item for the $1,450,000 ballot item, the bond vote for Rutland City Recreation, has passed overwhelmingly. It's probably not quite a 2-to-1 margin, but when you look at the numbers, it looks about 2-to-1 in favor of passing that. So we will be purchasing that property at the College of St. Joseph, and that would be the new Rutland City Recreation Center. This is the one ballot item that differs from everywhere else in the county. Everywhere else in the county had the same, just about the same races, with the exception of the different House races and Justice of the Peace races. And then Rutland City had the one ballot question, whether or not you want to support a new purchase of a new rec center at the College of St. Joseph. And the electorate has said about 2-to-1, yes. Before we move on, I wanted to thank this great team here. Again, we're doing this COVID safe, so I want to again give a shout out to my co-host, Nancy Gordon, who will probably be back with us at the next one, post-vaccine, let's hope. But in the meantime, doing things COVID safe here with distance and all the different protections that you might imagine with masks, and the distance is key tonight. So we have no guests, as you can see, and we're doing it a little differently, but we're doing it safely. So that's really important. But there is a great team working behind the scenes, led by Executive Director here at PEG TV, Tom Leipold. I want to give a shout out to Chelsea Tice, because she's the director for this channel and producer for tonight's entire event. And of course, Chris McCormick, my old classmate, Chris McCormick. Nancy Donahue is here working behind the scenes, as well as Sarah Nadler. And Priscilla Latkin, William Chemlowski, Katie Painter, and none other than Chris McCormick's brother, Greg McCormick, helping us out tonight. So that's a great team here operating safely under our new rules, as we all know that we have to follow, and being careful, making sure that we're all keeping each other safe too. So that's the team, and I want to thank them all for doing some great work here so far tonight. Get some of these results to you quickly, let you know who's leading in some of the Senate races, House races, of course the governor's race, which is by far right now in Rutland City and some of the county towns going overwhelmingly for Phil Scott. But the lieutenant governor race is a little bit closer, but Scott Millen leading that right now, at least in this county. And so the one thing I did want to just bring up briefly, because it's a local issue, and I saw it on Facebook today, and it's from the City of Rutland Fire Department, and it's about the 10-9 whistle. And there was a newspaper article on it just yesterday that talked about the whistle and the ailment of the whistle. And so I thought what I would do is, because this is such a local issue, read what the city fire department had posted on their Facebook today, which was a great explanation and should put all of our minds at ease. So it goes like this. They said, many people have heard that the 10-9 whistle has sounded a little off the last week or so. They have a computer called a digitizer that decodes game well boxes and telephone line alarms that are directly connected from the businesses to the station, the fire station. This tells them the business and address of the alarm. Very important information. This computer is also programmed to sound the whistle 2 times a day and is used to sound the whistle when we have a large fire, a general alarm as we call it locally. Last week, a component in the computer failed. They are using a backup component which had to be reprogrammed to sound the whistle. Unfortunately, some system settings still need to be tweaked to allow the whistle to sound normal. This system is complex and has to be worked on by a qualified technician, and there's nothing wrong with the whistle itself. I'll repeat that last part. There's nothing wrong with the whistle itself. Good to know. They are working on getting the backup system fixed to sound the whistle correctly until the primary system can be repaired. And they apologize for the abnormal sounds it is making now, but appreciate all the positive comments about keeping the system alive and well. And of course, growing up, I always knew it as the 10-9 whistle. But I always got a kick out of my kids when they were small, and they're all grown now, but because they grew up with digital clocks. And don't talk about things like 1:45 or 10-9. They talk about the 8:50 whistle. So I got quite a kick out of that, and I realized they're looking at digital clocks, and the 10-9 in their generation is the 8:50 whistle. But just to let you know, the 8:50 whistle is fine. And once the real experts get in, the qualified technicians, and fix the primary system, and that will and can be repaired, that things will get back to normal at 10-9 in the morning and 10-9 at night. So there's that very important breaking news from PEG TV tonight and election night eve. I know that you are both being COVID fatigued and election fatigued, but I appreciate you tuning in to PEG TV for this great regional asset that you have here in on our, not only on our cable television stations, but now on our social media, YouTube, and streaming live on PEG TV. Amazing way to communicate, and especially when more people are cooped up. And I talked to my mother before I came down here, Martha Donahue. Hi, Mom. And I give her a shout out there because, of course, she's been staying COVID safe, and wanted to make sure that she got a shout out tonight for being safely at home and tuning into PEG TV for election night results. So at this point, I think we're going to just take a brief break while we wait for some other towns to come in, so that we can give you some more breaking news and what the other towns are saying about the elections in Rutland County. So what we'd do is we would go to the bulletin board for a little bit, collect a few more results, and then we'll come right back on live to you shortly. So with that, we'll go to a break, and we'll see you as soon as we have some more results. Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, your host for live election night coverage here at PEG TV, one of Rutland Region's. We'll be able to bring you in your living room the local election results. We know you got a lot going on your TVs tonight and other mediums you may be watching on your iPads and your phones, etc., looking at what's going on in the nation regarding the presidential elections and Senate races and things that affect us on a national basis. But here in Rutland County, we want to talk about some of the things that are affecting us on the local level and where your votes count and how the results have been after all this campaigning, which, you know, for some of these House and Senate races locally and statewide, they go on all summer long. We've had a race for governor, and right now it looks like Phil Scott is going to be the next remain governor of the state of Vermont at this point if things don't change. He's doing very, very well. And Lieutenant Governor is a little bit closer. Scott Milne in Rutland County, who is leading Molly Gray, but a little bit closer race there. But on the Senate side, we have some results from Rutland City in the House races, re-electing incumbents, Mary Howard, Larry Coopely, Peter Fagan, and William Knott, all being re-elected, all the incumbents being re-elected in Rutland City to districts 5, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for House of Representatives. Now, on the Senate side, which does make a big difference because Rutland City votes don't necessarily represent the opinions of the entire county with 27 towns, but in Rutland City, Cheryl Hooker led the way, followed by Brian Collmore, and closely by newcomer in this respect, Josh Terenzini in Rutland City for State Senate in Rutland City. On the state website, they're reporting at this point, they're saying that they have 11 towns in. We don't know what towns those are, but they're indicating Brian Collmore leading the way with Cheryl Hooker second and Josh Terenzini third in that total that they've represented so far. The next closest was Terry Williams and Greg Cox right behind Terry, and then so on down the line. So we'll see if that holds true. Don't know what towns those are. It's a state indicator on the website that we just took that from. So, but it does look like that's pretty consistent at this point with Brian Collmore, Cheryl Hooker, and Josh Terenzini for the state Senate in Rutland County. And then we do have the town of Wells in. So let's see what Wells said about that tonight. Let's start with governor. We have, again, Phil Scott with 544 votes and David Zuckerman with 136. So if that continues statewide, you know, there's not much doubt that Phil Scott will handily win re-election to governor of the state of Vermont this evening. On the lieutenant governor race, which we indicated was a little bit closer, but Scott Milne did quite well in Wells with 442 votes to Molly Gray's 239. I don't know how this trend looks statewide, but Scott Milne is doing quite well in that respect. And for lieutenant governor, jumping over to state senate in the town of Wells, going in alphabetical order, Brittany Kavaka 77 votes to Brian Collmore's 272 votes. Looks like Larry Corsell with 154 votes, Greg Cox with 193 votes, Cheryl Hooker with 241 votes, Casey Jennings 18 votes, Richard Lenches 9 votes, Michael Shank 32 votes, Josh Terenzini showing well there in the town of Wells with 254 votes, and Terry Williams with a big vote in Wells. He's from the town of Poultney, 415 for Terry Williams. So Terry Williams leads the ticket in the town of Wells, followed by Brian Collmore and that would be Josh Terenzini third and Cheryl Hooker fourth in the town of Wells. State Representative Sally Aki, Republican, running from the Middletown Springs, 417 votes to Robert Chestnut Changerman's 293 votes in the town of Wells. Now, Robin is the incumbent there, being challenged by Sally Aki. And again, Sally with 417 votes and Robin with 293. Let's see. High Bailiff, Chief Humphreys doing better there in Wells with 381, Jonathan J.J. Bixby with 268 for High Bailiff. So that is the town of Wells. Again, let me just recap that it looks like in the House race in that one town, and there's several that make up the town they're running for, Robin Chestnut Tangerman with 293, but Saliaki's 417 votes in the town of Wells. And in the Senate race, again, just looking at the top four, let's say, because they're fairly close, Terry Williams doing quite well with 415 votes to Brian Collimore's 272, Josh Terenzini taking that third spot there with 254, followed closely by Cheryl Hooker with 241 in the town of Wells. So that is playing out similar to what the rest of the county is saying about those top three. If that still continues to hold with those votes not being too far apart, it does look like the incumbents of Brian Collimore and Cheryl Hooker will win Rutland County Senators re-election, and it does appear that unless things really change countywide, that Josh Terenzini may be Rutland County's new senator. And so with that, I just wanted to mention that where I have a list of people that I wanted to recognize, but before I do, I wanted to also say there's something that goes on here annually called Stuff-A-Bus. We're already in November, and we're going to be post-election soon. So I wanted to mention that we have a great team of people at the Brock Community Food Shelf, the Rutland Community Cupboard, and Salvation Army in alphabetical order that are working to feed people in need in this county right now. And Stuff-A-Bus happens annually, as you know, and we literally fill the bus with tens of thousands of pounds of food. Thanks to Marble Valley Regional Transit District and that iconic bus, emblematic of the event, along with the stations at Catamount Radio, led by Terry J and WJJR typically, that where you put buses physically at Price Chopper, Hannaford's, and this year a JJR van at Tops Market. And rather than going completely virtual, what we've decided collectively to do on November 12th, 13th, and 14th, that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, right after Veterans Day, November 11th, the 12th, 13th, and 14th, we'll have those buses parked there, and we will have staff there from our organizations, and we will have the radio broadcasting live, which is phenomenal, thanks to Catamount Radio. And we will be collecting money in place of food. With donations of money, either cash or checks, we will be able to go out and buy food in bulk from typically the Vermont Food Bank, which is located here conveniently on Park Street, because we can buy pallets of food. Now, we also like to buy from our local supermarkets and don't want to discount that whatsoever. But as you know, some items right now during the pandemic have become harder to find in bulk and limited as to the number of items that you can buy, as well as the availability of certain things. So working together with the Vermont Food Bank, it has worked out where we can buy pallets of certain foods that then allows us to distribute more to the people in need, which we're seeing literally thousands of per month right here in Rutland County. So having said that, we've kind of got an arrangement here where we're not going to go virtual. We're going to be physically there. We'll be practicing safe COVID safety precautions, so we'll be masked and distanced, and will not be handling food. But we will be there to thank you and to tell you how much we appreciate anyone who can afford to donate cash or check. Maybe in your businesses or organizations you might want to raise some internally. I know the churches here are working on it. Christ the King, my church, is working on it with IHM and St. Patrick's in Wallingford. And those donations will be divided up by the three organizations, and most of us buy food directly from Vermont Food Bank. And that's the way we'll be able to conduct Stuff-A-Bus for its 26th year in Rutland County, conduct it successfully, end up with the same result, a lot of food that we can then distribute throughout the holidays as we know, when it's really in need. By this prolonged and protracted pandemic, the longer it goes, the more difficult it becomes for people. And one of the things we don't want them to be concerned with is food on their table when they're trying to figure out how to stretch their budget. Those of low income in this region, those living in poverty, older folks that might be on a fixed income, as well as new faces we're seeing, what I call the suddenly unemployed. A lot of folks locally are finding themselves unemployed or furloughed and trying to stretch those budgets as far as they can. So it's really important that food is not one of the things that folks have to worry about in feeding their families. In Rutland County, we're very generous, and we appreciate your generosity, and we look forward to seeing you on November 11th, 11/12, November 12th, 13th, and 14th at Price Chopper Hannaford or Tops to raise funds for the 26th annual Stuff-A-Bus. Having said that, I want to talk about this great asset here in the Rutland region, Rutland PEG TV. The team here tonight, who has been operating in masks and distance and still getting it done, led by the executive director, Tom Leipold, and my former classmate and old friend, Chris McCormick, and his brother tonight helping out, Greg McCormick. Good to see. Younger brother. And Nancy Donahue, of course, every year behind the scenes, taking in these great numbers that we've been able to provide to you tonight from around the county, and the town clerks who have been kind enough to call those in for us. Our producer for this channel and of tonight's event, Chelsea Tice. Sarah Nadler also working behind the scenes tonight, tallying those numbers. Priscilla Latkin, William Shomolowski, as well as Katie Painter. And that is the team tonight, along with me, your host, Tom Donahue. I do this just as a former producer here at PEG TV with Chamber Focus, and then once in a while with Barack Talk. We've done a few less of those now during COVID, but I do want to point out that Joe Tilden has still maintained his show, Big Joe's Journal, and has done now 903 programs. So big shout out to my old friend Joe Tilden for doing an amazing job of producing all that local programming that he has been consistent with even throughout the last 8 months during this pandemic period. So great job, Joe, and thanks for tuning in tonight. We're glad that you're part of the PEG TV family. With that, I think we do not have any additional results in, so what we've talked about is actually going to the bulletin board, signing off with the live programming tonight, and then Chelsea Tice will be putting up results on the bulletin board, updating it tonight for a little while as more results may trickle in, and then tomorrow morning updating it with all the results right here on channel 1085 or pegtv.com. So we're going to go ahead and sign off on the local live coverage, go to the bulletin board, and let everybody also get back to what's now trickling in as the national news, and we'll see where that takes us. We may not know before we go to bed tonight, but everyone's certainly glued to their sets, and we understand that here at PEG TV, and we appreciate you tuning in for some of this local coverage. I do want to say one last thing, which is congratulations to all of the candidates. As I've said in many other previous programs, it's very hard to put yourself out there for office, to stand on street corners and knock on doors and shake hands with folks, or virtual high fives these days, to suggest that you're the one that could best represent them. So a lot of credit goes to those that are willing to put their name on the ballot, win or lose. You're all appreciated for giving us the choice. And lastly, for all of you that went out to vote today, as I mentioned, quoting Henry Heck from earlier, anticipating maybe an 80% turnout today in Rutland County, amazing. So congratulations to all of you that took the time to vote and weigh in on your future. With that, we'll be signing off. Again, I'm Tom Donahue, your host for PEG TV. This has been live election night coverage. See you soon.